All right. Good morning.
Good morning, Henry. How you doing?
Good. Good. Man, it's there's like a little bit of overcast, huh? Like at least here in Porter Ranch.
Yeah, down in Marina, it's always has that fog layer, so it's hard for me to tell what the weather's really like.
Yeah. And we've been blessed here in Southern California with some really good weather. It's almost like springtime weather.
Yeah, it's nice. We'll probably just let people start joining in, kind of warm themselves up. Hopefully they've got some coffee or some tea. I know Henry and I have a little bit of that. So let people, join the room and then we'll get started in a little bit.
Okay. Cool. So I'm so curious. We have some people joining from overseas for this webinar. I'm so curious to see where everyone's dialing in from. Do you guys mind putting on chat where you guys are coming dialing in from?
Ooh, Washington, D.C. Very nice. Orlando, San Diego, Seattle, Cedric in the background in Paris, more Chicago, Boston, NorCal. Okay, we got an LA in there. Got a friendly LA face.
Oh, I see Bridget. Bridget joined from Washington. All right.
Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, Louisiana, San Diego, 71 and sunny. That sounds pretty nice.
Yeah. Los Angeles, Dean, welcome. DC. Wow. All right. Indiana.
Indiana, nice. Man, all over. That's great. We've got a nice representation across the whole map. Anyone
Yeah.
out there international joining Cedric in the international crowd? Okay,
Philippines.
Philippines.
All right.
Nice.
Bay Area.
Bay, Bay Area, great. Well, Henry, we're a couple minutes in. We'll keep
Yeah.
letting people join. We've got a good number of people joining already. So, what do you think? Shall we get started?
Yeah. Let's get started. Let's get started.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you everyone for making the time. I know we're all busy with summer plans and whatnot, and trying to keep up with business. So we'll make sure that this is very informative, worth your time. Uh, yeah, let's talk a little bit about our company. So 3GC is a provider of private AI, of a private AI platform and a data operation that pairs up with it. And the goal here is to simplify AI for growing companies. I'd say the biggest difference about our platform is the people who designed it and are operating it. We're all former CIOs, CTOs, and COOs of companies like these fine logos here. And that makes a huge difference in the way we provide an actual business value. So, quick introductions, a little bit about me. I'm the CEO and founder. I started this company 23 years ago. I know it's been a while. Now, I have a background in investment banking and M&A. That's really where I started. And then I've had 23 years as a tech executive and entrepreneur. It just gives me a very different perspective. Now, my job here is to make sure that we bake in business value to all of our offerings. That's vastly different than engineers and engineer-led technology companies. So I've led the company through many technology evolutions, from DevOps to blockchain to AI. But what really keeps me going is the culture of our growing team. So we got a really rocking culture over here. Keeps us awake and having a lot of fun throughout these years. Kyle?
Yeah, thanks, Henry. I'm the VP of Product and Business Development over here. My background is in really data and strategy. So I've been working in data teams for many, many years now. The last 6 or 7 or so has been in B2B SaaS companies, leading our data and strategy efforts. And I've really struggled with the challenges of building a data platform and proper visualization and really getting key insights to stakeholders. So this what we've built here has really resonated with me, and I'm part of kind of leading our AI strategy for how we implement really important features, to Henry's point, that actually provide business value. But today, we're going to cover 4 critical topics that will transform how you think about your data strategy. So first, we'll discuss the common mistakes companies make when trying to solve reporting and data challenges, mistakes that waste time and money and just create headaches. It's really the foundation of data and AI. Second, we're going to show you how to unlock 10x value in your data through this idea of multi-source strategic reporting. We're going to drill into what that means, so stay tuned for that. Third, we're going to take you through how Themis, our data platform, helps you build an AI-enabled business intelligence. And we're going to kind of sum all that up and walk you through a real case study showing how the company transformed from manual reporting to this idea of multi-source strategic reporting, and then was able to benefit from AI-driven insights. And then finally, we're going to give you a roadmap to get AI ready with your data that can deliver and leverage business value. So we'll be doing this by showing you how our path from AI-ready data through an AI assessment and then eventually a consultation. And of course, for the people who've joined here for taking time out of your busy schedule, we have a nice offer for you. For the first 3 people who sign up for this 30-minute consultation that I just mentioned, you're going to get that free, you're going to get that AI readiness assessment all for free. It's a 10K value. So we're going to drop that into the chat right now. Feel free to book that. You might want to jump on it pretty quick so you don't miss out. With that, Henry, let's get started.
Let's get started.
So let's start with some pretty sobering statistics that I think quantify the real cost of disconnected data. These numbers come from recent studies by the Association of Financial Professionals, McKinsey, and other leading data quality research organizations. So typically, your finance and your ops teams are spending about a quarter of their time on manual data collection and report generation. So they're losing about a little over 5 days per month just waiting for critical reports to be compiled. And here's the kicker. 40% of those manual reports contain at least one significant error. And that's just because of human error that we have to deal with because we're doing it manually. I think we've probably all experienced this challenge. And then if you think the solution is hiring your way out of this, you should need to think again. Enterprise level data teams cost at least $2 million annually or maybe more. And that's multiple highly experienced, high demand skill sets from DevOps, DevSecOps, data engineers, data scientists. I mean, the list goes on and on. And most growing companies just simply can't afford or retain that type of talent until you get to a pretty large size. So these just aren't operational efficiencies. They're actually real strategic barriers that are constraining your growth. Now we see this.
One thing I wanted to add to that one. So I know the $2 million may seem exaggerated, right? It's a conservative estimate for companies that are between 500 to 2 billion in revenue. Now, it would be less for companies that are mid-sized companies, but it's still a very significant number. There's a big disparity between what tools and capabilities large enterprises have for data and data operations versus what mid-sized companies are actually doing today.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Henry. And we see this across lots of industries. So these costs create 4 critical pain points. First, delayed decision-making. Why should you wait until monthly close to access critical insights? That delayed reporting creates some really dangerous blind spots if you're moving quickly. Secondly, manual reports don't typically scale. So as your business grows, those Excel spreadsheets and manual processes become increasingly time-consuming and error-prone, as we've mentioned. So you're just going to have to keep adding more and more people, and that's just going to compound a lot of those errors that we see within the data. So most of your insights will end up being siloed. Each function across your business is going to have their own purview of information. No one's going to be sitting across the top of that data. So ultimately, what ends up happening is you're reactive to what's happening in your business rather than being proactive. You're not looking ahead. You're just reacting to what you're seeing behind, and unfortunately, usually in a delayed manner. So that brings us to our first poll for today. We want to provide some interactivity here and understand the audience a little bit better. So we want to dive in deeper, and let's get a pulse check on what everyone is doing in the audience. What is your biggest data challenge? And please choose the one that hits closest to home. So are you spending too much time, manually collecting and cleaning data? Do you have too many disconnected systems? Can't trust your reports? Or I think the last one's kind of interesting. Are you being asked to implement AI, but you don't have the teams and tools in place to do that just yet? So let's see. Definitely seeing people put this in the chat.
Yeah. Hey,
oh, here we go.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry, everyone. I know I see some people putting that in the chat, but if you wouldn't mind putting that into the poll, that'd be great. I'm seeing a lot of, in the chat though, I was seeing a lot of B's. So data is in too many disconnected systems. That makes a ton of sense. And what we typically see is that most companies face multiple challenges simultaneously, but there's usually one that's the biggest pain point that's preventing you from really understanding your information. Let's see. Henry, are you able to see the results?
I am not.
Okay. Well, then I really appreciate everyone putting into the chat.
I can share the result. There you
go. Oh, here we go. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think the chat is consistent with what we're seeing in the results. About half of you are sitting in that B section, data lives and too many disconnected systems. But there's a little bit of everyone in one place. A good portion of people in being asked to implement AI, but don't have the team or tools to do that. It's a little bit of a leading question, but it's typically what we see. I think this is going to be a great opportunity to talk about your path to AI ready data. Henry, anything you want to add into that?
Yeah, what was really cool is to see the results on chat. Really appreciate everyone doing that, and how there's a combination of so many different issues. Maybe we should make this a multiple choice or a multiple option poll next time. Thank you for everyone for the input.
Yeah, and see Sylvia talking about couldn't answer the question. If you this is probably a little bit of housekeeping we should talk about. If you guys have any questions, if you want to pop that either into the question, the question and answering section, we'll be sure to address those towards the end. We've left plenty of time for questions. Or if you want to pop it into chat because that's easier, we'll pick it up there too. But we'll definitely leave all of those questions for the end and come back to them. All right, thanks everyone for engaging with that. Henry?
Yeah, so what we're talking about is lack of visibility ultimately with all the problems that we're all facing. The real impact to this is pretty vast. So when we're talking about sales inventory blind spots, what that translates to is demand planning and sales operations planning. So the enterprises that do this right, like Coca-Cola and Procter and Gamble, they spend more money on this than most companies do with their entire revenue, right? And their infrastructure is vast. Their teams are vast. But we can help you do this for less than the cost of one admin. When it comes to financial uncertainty, we all know that we're referring to cash flow management, and doing cash flow management in growth mode and experimenting mode with various different new products, it's really challenging. So you need as much operational data correlated together to get some form of predictability with your cash flow. For example, best practice is to have 14-week cash flow that takes into account changes in sales, supply, AR, and AP, but it's too time consuming to maintain it on a regular basis without the right tools. Performance measuring down to the customer and promotion is next to impossible. Just looking at transactional data. An example is you'll need to get immediate feedback from the effectiveness of your promotions. And you got to combine that with cost and sales lift data. So try doing this in real time. It's impossible without enterprise tools. Just to get it once a week is hard, right? And there's tons of man hours. We all know it's a painstaking exercise. And then there's a lot of manual calculations and spreadsheets, and that's prone to a lot of error. So you can't trust gut alone while you're navigating growth. you have to build team confidence, entire team, your entire company has to have this confidence around these types of data visibility. Now let's get to the next slide. So here's a quote from one of our board members, Pat Turpin. He's the former founder of Pop Chips. He's on the board of many companies, and he knows firsthand what it's like to grow and exit a business. So we got many ideas on our platform features from Pat while he was talking us through his experience with the trials and tribulations of implementing his first ERP and enterprise applications, right, without the right data infrastructure or technology leadership. The ERP nightmares that everyone knows about and have heard about, they're true. And it's because you don't, a lot of these companies just don't have the right data to put into these transactional systems. So what ends up happening is a lot of these companies, they try to exit before they put in their first system. And a lot of buyers, they discount the enterprise value of the business because they don't have proper processes around systems like this. So it's a big mess. This is really, really important stuff. Kyle, you want to go to the next one?
Yeah. Now, many of you might be thinking, why can't off-the-shelf BI tools solve this issue? Or some of you might be sitting there going, we've tried BI tools like Power BI and Tableau. Why weren't they able to solve these problems? And the fundamental issue is that, pretty dashboards on dirty data still give you dirty insights. Classic adage, bad data in, bad data out. So if we break this down, BI tools depend on source quality and are typically prone to inaccuracies. Whereas a data management platform like the Themis solution is going to provide automated checks, automated data cleaning and normalization, data transformation at the warehouse layer, which will ensure consistency. BI tools will struggle with large data sets, especially if you're trying to do some of these visualizations with local processing. And they typically have high overhead costs to operate the entire system, everything from the per user subscriptions to the consultants and administration to build and support it. So there's a lot of overhead there that is somewhat of a secret hidden cost that you won't see until you finally try to finish the product. Whereas with a data management platform, it's going to provide you with fast, scalable processing, handling large data sets. The overhead costs are baked in. And then we provide a lot of AI optimized workflows that are going to provide less friction and reduce the cost of the system overall. So ultimately, that's going to lead to a high likelihood of success with the data management platform. Whereas BI tools, they'll kind of languish and struggle and won't actually provide a lot of value to the business. You get 12 months down the road, and you still haven't actually solved your challenge. You need to solve the foundational problem before visualization tools can deliver value.
Yeah. So one thing I want to emphasize here is the level of effort, right? BI companies do a great job on the marketing of their tools. What they don't tell you is the heavy lift and the data administration you'll need to manage this, right? It's not as easy as Excel, as they say. It's you can't get an Excel jockey to work on this and fix this. So on the flip side of it, though, 70 to 80% of a BI implementation is not technology either. You can't get a data engineer to fix this either. A lot of it is organizational change management around your data and data processes. That's above an admin level and above an engineer level. Yeah. We'll get into it in a use case here, a case study down the road.
Yeah. Which is a great segue into talking about your current tech stack. So Cedric, we've got our next poll up, and this one asks about the tools and systems you're currently using. You can select multiple ones on this one. It's a little different from the last one. And this gives us a good sense of where you're starting from, whether you're on spreadsheets, you have a BI tool, whether that's delivering value or not. Do you have some infrastructure? The principles we're going to start talking about here apply universally, but it's great to kind of have a starting point.
Yeah.
Awesome. And let's see, give a couple seconds for that poll to come in.
Yeah, it's still moving aggressively on the response.
I imagine there's a couple options you can push here, so give people some time to answer that one.
10 more
Also,
seconds.
I'll just point out in the chat, thanks, Kelvin. Great, appreciate that.
Yeah, revenue operations.
Yeah, let me share the results. There
Okay.
you go.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay. So just quickly run through the results here. 60% have some form of BI tool. About 50% have a data warehouse. 30% don't have a formal stack. They're doing everything manually right now. Relatively small portion, 15% AI or ML tools. 60% have a CRM system or an ERP. That makes a ton of sense. Might have expected that to be a little higher, actually. So that's interesting. And then 25% on data integration tools. So definitely a lot of people in the audience working kind of in that BI data warehouse tech stack. Again, pop in any questions if you're experiencing any challenges. We'd love to talk about that in the Q&A. Okay, so I think this brings us to our most important concept today, or second most, depending on how important AI is to you. But this concept is unlocking 10x value through data integration. And integration, we find, doesn't just add value; it's a true multiplier effect. So, strategic insights emerge from data intersections, not necessarily from individual sources. And the more sources that you connect, the more that data integration leads to kind of this exponential strategic insights. We find there's this magic number at around like 3 or more. So if you think about some of your systems, a NetSuite, Salesforce, Shopify, your customer support system, whatever it may be, all of those systems start to add up for strategic insights that you can find. Which products are driving labor inefficiencies, which customers are profitable over time from a fully burdened view, incorporating CAC, support, etc. A really good example of this is from one of our clients, a manufacturing customer. They combined their payroll, accounting, and production data. When they looked at each system individually, everything kind of appeared normal. But when they integrated multiple systems, they were able to identify that their margin was wildly different between SKU. 60% of their overtime was driven by just a few SKUs. So in the aggregate, their margin was average. But by drilling down to the SKU level, they could see which ones were performing, which ones were underperforming. This really allowed them to optimize their scheduling and product mix. And in doing so, achieved a $2 million annual savings by changing that mix. And so that's that 10x insight that we talked about. It's invisible until you connect multiple data sources. And I think it demonstrates the progression from linear insights with one system to comparative insights with two systems to then now starting to get into like this exponential strategic insights with 3 or more systems.
Yeah, we got this formula from IEEE. It's horizontally integrating 3 different data sets and to get 10x value. It's a technical view known amongst CTOs and software development teams, but we'll be walking through the value of this through some really good business examples in upcoming slides. The true value of unlocking the data is combining 3 different departmental data sets together and then creating domains of users around shared company data. That's really where the 10x value comes from.
Mm-hmm. And I think most companies stop at that transactional reporting, that single source transactional reporting. So they know what happened. Revenue was $2 million this quarter. We sold 1,000 units. Our profit margin was 36% or whatever it may be. That's helpful, but it's typically not enough. And these are all single source metrics, typically from a finance or an ERP system, giving you a historical snapshot. We talked about this in the beginning. One of the challenges, you're only looking behind. What they don't tell you is why those numbers moved or what to do next. That's where the strategic multi-source reporting comes in. So when you connect data across systems, whether that's your finance system, your CRM, your operational system, you start uncovering real business drivers. So my CAC increased by 40% due to a shift in my SKU or channel mix. 60% of my churn is linked to product delays or some other thing that would be unseen in your CRM. Reducing discounting in Q2 drove a 12% lift in lifetime value. That's a pretty complex thing to try to answer. So this kind of reporting gives you answers with context, not just metrics, but real insight. And I think that's what's really important when you're looking at a very high level strategic lens to your business. Why are we seeing this trend? What's causing the friction? Where should we go next? So the advantage is that strategic reporting reveals why things happened, and what to do next. You stop reacting to numbers and you start making kind of proactive data-backed decisions. And this 10x insight pattern works consistently across industries. So I'll just run through some examples here. In retail, when you connect inventory, sales, and marketing data, you can accurately predict demand and make smarter decisions about what to stock and when. In healthcare, when you bring together patient data, billing info, operational results, it becomes a powerful way to optimize care and maybe improve outcomes. In legal services, when you bring together matter management, these are tracking documents, people, or activities, you combine that with time tracking and billing, you can drive real operational efficiency. In SaaS and tech, if you look at usage, support activity, and billing in all one package, you can probably start to predict churn and spot where there's room to grow with your existing customers via upsell. In financial services, if you combine transaction data, CRM insights, and potentially your customers' key life events, you might be able to spot really good moments for upsell or cross-sell before the customer even knows to ask. So the pattern is universal across all these industries. The most valuable business insights exist at the intersection of your data sources, not just one data source.
Yeah, I love that quote, Kyle. We got to copyright that one. That's awesome. So true. It's at that intersection.
Thanks, Henry. So this is a great time to kind of get the audience in place. We've got our third poll up here. What type of questions can your current reporting actually answer? And I think this will really be really interesting. It's multiple choice, so you can answer multiple. We've kind of designed it so we think it kind of builds on each other. People might be in the basic transactional metrics. If you can do that, you might be able to do the performance metrics. And if you can do that, you kind of keep going down the line. So I'm really curious to see, based on who's here, how far down this ladder they can go. And I mean, what we typically see, Henry, is that most companies are kind of stuck at that basic transactional metrics. Maybe you have some performance context. Maybe you've defined your KPIs, but you're probably struggling to monitor those KPIs consistently.
Yeah. And I'm hopeful. There's a bunch of people here who actually are using Snowflake and BigQuery, some sort of data warehouse. And so really interesting to see the results here. Yeah.
There we go. I'm sharing the results.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right. Very, very cool. Okay. Half of you are at, the ladder one. So with basic transactional metrics. And again, people could select multiple, so it's not going to be a one-to-one here, but 65% in that second section of performance metrics. That's really promising. And now it starts to kind of taper off as we see it. Now it's only 40% in the cross-system KPIs, 30% in the strategic insights, and only 20% in predictive analytics. So yeah, I think if we were to look at this, Henry, the majority are in that second section, and then a few people kind of make their way down, but it starts to taper off pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that we know where you're at, I think as we start to talk about our data platform, we can kind of curate this a little bit. Definitely, how can you move from maybe that second level and start to work your way into additional bits? So how do we solve this specifically? Themis is a managed data warehouse built on top of your existing systems. So there's no disruption to your current workflows or processes. So we build on top of your ERP system, your CRM, all of that. We help you create a single source of truth across all of those systems. And as we talked about, really kind of driving towards that magical 3 number. We help you connect at least 3 or more of your systems to create that centralized standard data platform. We support this all with the data service desk, which we haven't really talked about. This is a kind of a completely new concept, but it's a single point of contact for all levels of your data expertise. So it gives you access to that enterprise level data team that is really challenging and expensive to resource. We have that all in-house for you. And ultimately, this all funnels up into an actionable AI-enabled business intelligent platform where you're making informed decisions with real-time insights and not waiting for monthly, close processes or delayed decision making. I think the key in all of this, as we look at our foundational structure, is it's really built to eliminate data disparities and the challenges that we talked about up front, reduce those version control issues and those manual errors. And as we're about to get into, is really the foundation you need to start utilizing AI. Being AI ready requires a data layer to do that.
Yeah, a little history on the origin of this architecture. It came from working directly with CEOs, COOs, and CFOs who don't have a data operations team. What we found is they don't want to be super user admins, right? Going through months of training. What they wanted is to be as fast as ChatGPT without having a lot of hands-on administration. And so what we did was we integrated AI in our data service desk to make it very seamless without administrative requirements for the client.
Oops. Thanks, Henry. So to kind of walk you through a real world case study so you can understand how Themis delivers results and take this from theoretical to a little more practical. We worked with a fast growing mid-market company doing a lot of private equity roll-up. So they have a really complex subsidiary structure due to all these multiple acquisitions. They'd spent multiple efforts and time trying to implement a unified reporting using NetSuite, Power BI, and some other tools. But the effort ultimately fell short. So the complexity of their GL hierarchy, fragmented systems all over the place made a lot of this multi-source strategic reporting really, really difficult. So to fill the gap, they turned to consultants and manual reports in Excel, which led to reporting delays, high overhead, and ultimately the C-suite level was still not really getting the insights they needed and didn't really have the visibility into the business that they required. So phase one, we focused on building the centralized data warehouse directly from NetSuite. We preserved the GL hierarchy. We customized KPIs by subsidiary, and we automated all of their core reporting from the P&Ls to variance analysis and their KPIs. Eliminated most, if not all, of the Excel work and replaced a large portion of the consultant spend. Now in phase two, we're integrating CRM. So we're starting to add more systems to really unlock that value to create, full funnel visibility into their customer behavior and their vendors. And AI is already starting to accelerate insights and dramatically reduce the time it takes for them to get from question to answer. So executives can now explore the data through, natural language queries, all self-service. No analysts or Excel wrangling is required. And ultimately, what used to take weeks of manual effort now takes seconds. And the return is really starting to speak for itself. Over 5x ROI due to reduced or eliminated consultant spend, reduced overhead, and it's really solving a lot of those reporting challenges that they had to enable faster, better decision making across the organization.
Yeah. This is the most common problem we see in mid-sized companies. So they bring in a BI tool, bring in BI admins, get their Excel jockeys to work with them to fix complicated data integration problems. It took this client 6 months to figure out that the reports that they were looking to implement on Power BI wouldn't work. And this is after doing customizations on NetSuite too. So it's not the BI admin's fault. They're doing what they're told and they're using what tools they know how to use and what tools they have access to. So, to really integrate these kind of sources and get it to a point where you can do automations around it, you need enterprise data tools and an enterprise team, both of which we've baked into our subscriptions.
Yeah, I'm going to take a quick break and just talk about, there's a question about using Sage for inventory, Xero in the cloud for accounting. Can you guys integrate data from these sources as well? So Themis is system agnostic. As long as it's as an API, or even if it's an on-prem data source like Sage, we've built integrations or gateways to on-prem data sources. So there's no limitations. We can consolidate and work with those data sources regardless. But that's a really great question. Okay, now we're gonna change it up here a little bit. We've been mentioning AI and how to build an AI-ready data layer, but I want to kind of address a little bit of a critical distinction about the difference between public LLMs and private LLMs, or public AI versus private AI. So public LLMs answer in generalities based on internet scale, internet level training data. They're great for general knowledge or writing help like copy, or maybe even coding. And these are your ChatGPTs, your Claudes of the world, and they're getting very sophisticated on those specific tasks. But they don't have any of your business context, and they potentially have some security concerns that you may need to worry about for your business if you're inputting private data into these systems. Whereas private LLMs or private AI, on the other hand, is fine-tuned to your company's data. It runs in your own secure environment, and they can provide business answers based on your actual business data and logic. And they're secure and relevant and auditable, which is really important. The trade-off is they require setup and maintenance. Fortunately, that's where we come in. So this distinction is really crucial because most AI implementations fail because they're trying to use general purpose AI for business specific problems. And that's where you really need to bring in private AI. So we're going to start talking about your data readiness for AI. And ultimately, AI is only as good as the data foundation you build. LLMs are going to amplify both good insights and bad data. So you really need to get the foundation right first. And why does AI need clean data? AI is only as smart as the data that it's given. It amplifies both insights and errors. So clean data is essential. And it needs context from all those connected systems that we've talked about. Static reports aren't going to be able to feed dynamic AI. So that path really starts with a clean, connected data foundation or your single source of truth. And once you do that, then you're really going to enable yourself to provide AI-powered insights, do predictive analytics. And this is a really big buzzword in 2025, but agentic AI with automated decision-making and task completion, things like automated customer service or automated market research or automatic bookkeeping, just as a few examples. But again, you're going to need that clean data foundation on top of your existing systems to be able to enable all of these different tools.
Yeah, everyone's talking about agentic AI. The executives I talk to, the majority of them they know that their data is not ready for it. So that preparation, there's so much value in the automation, there's so much potential, but if your data is not ready, there's not much you can do with it. So we'll go through how to get ready for automation.
Mm-hmm. And so Themis AI creates your own secure private AI environment built on your data for your team. So you get three really important capabilities when you use Themis. First, a private secure environment where all your structured and unstructured business data is clean, normalized, and accessible in a secure AI workspace customized to your organization. Second, you can prompt via natural language for real insights. So this will query your data, interpret it, build dashboards and reports, and then you can see the data lineage for how that was created. So you reduce a lot of the AI hallucination concerns that a lot of AI struggles with these days. Third, and you can build this on top of any of today's best LLMs, we can interchange those models depending on what's the right tool for the right task for your data. So you don't have to worry about being beholden to any one AI ecosystem. And the great news is you can do this today. We're going to talk about some steps here in the next few minutes about how you can do that and start, building your metrics and tailoring your metrics and your needs, using AI. So what does this look like in practice? We talk about from weeks to seconds, weeks of manual reporting, trying to, download your data, normalize it, put it into a report. That all now takes seconds. You'll see kind of here to the right, I've got this going pretty fast, but you can create natural language business questions. It'll automatically generate dashboards. It provides strategic recommendations. And all of these insights are generated in under 5 seconds. And again, like I talked about, you can see the data lineage. So you can drill down into, how your question was interpreted, what data was used to create that information, and then understand where it came from. So you have this annotation to actually understand where the system got the data from, so that it's not making it up, which can be a real challenge. And we're talking about, so what this does is it transforms your data from a reporting bottleneck into a strategic advantage. And again, instead of waiting weeks for analysis, you're going to get answers in seconds. Okay. But you may be asking yourself, I'm not ready for that, or how do I get ready for that? And we designed an engagement with that in mind. And we call it our AI data readiness assessment. So over the course of this assessment, we'll dive in to understand your business goals, pain points, and key reporting needs. We connect to your data sources and profile its structure, the completeness of the data and its quality. So it becomes less so a theoretical exercise, but actually a practical one based on your actual data. And then we assess the field usage, your schema quality, the associations between your sources, and identify any data gaps. And we provide an output that's a recommendations report of shows what business questions you can and can't answer today, where your data quality structure is blocking progress, and then eventually build towards a roadmap for your AI data readiness and how you can improve a lot of what you're doing. All in all, using this assessment, you can triage a huge portion of your data challenges, which is going to save time, reduce errors, and give you a clear path forward before you start implementing AI if you feel like you're not ready.
Yeah, I know how enticing the AI features look and the solutions sound. It's like magic, right? When you see the presentations, and it should work seamlessly, but they often don't. So, you need to know if your company's private data is ready, because applying a lot of these tools to more generalized data sets, where you're mixing data from other industries, even, right, into your own company data sets, can cause a lot of issues.
And as we kind of teased in the beginning, how can you get started? We're offering a free 30-minute AI readiness consultation before your assessment. So this is a hands-on discovery session designed to kickstart your journey toward that AI data readiness. And in just 30 minutes, we'll assess your current data operations maturity. We can identify strategic reporting opportunities, uncover some quick wins for integrating your existing systems, and then explore how your business data can power private AI. So this all feeds into the AI data readiness assessment and helps us prepare a lot of the findings and insights you'll need. You'll walk away with those insights and a clearer picture of what it takes to move to AI-driven reporting. And remember, I know Cedric's just posted this in the chat. First 3 people who book that today will get this AI readiness assessment completely for free.
Yeah, and whether it's an enterprise solution or a brand new AI widget, there's going to be thousands of them, like just launching next week alone. No salesperson is going to tell you that your data is not ready, because it'll hurt the sales process. It doesn't matter whether you need Themis or another AI solution. This assessment that we put together will give you a high-level understanding of what kind of AI tools you can use and what automations you can implement in your company.
Okay, so now we have 15 minutes for questions. I think we can get into some of the specifics of everyone's situation. I know we've got questions in the Q&A, we've got questions in the chat. If you have any additional questions, please drop them in. We'll try to get to all of them. We can talk anything from technical implementation to how you calculate your KPIs, specific use cases for industry. You can even, we've had some people ask about their specific systems, whether we integrate with those. Happy to dive into any of that. So we'll kind of stay here. Let's see, Henry, do you have a question you want to go to first? I'm going to start digging into this.
Yeah, there were a lot of attendees here who already have their own data warehouse and whatnot, and I'll go over Bridget's question around privacy and security of the AI environment, right? And Bridget, this is the reason why you need your own private LLM. So creating an infrastructure, a data warehouse infrastructure is a really good start, but a lot of enterprise organizations that are dealing with compliance and governance issues for whatever industry they're in, they're not allowed to use ChatGPT at all in their environment, even if it's an employee at an employee level, right? Because it'll, depending on what kind of security concerns they have and compliance they have to do, they're not allowed to. So privacy and security is key to any AI environment. And this is why you need your own data warehouse. You need to segment that off. You need to have the right user provisions and access. Not only control that, but audit it. Make sure there's audit trails of what people are accessing. And you need to do it in your own private environment. And so the privacy and security issue is the reason why we did this. And even for small enterprise, mid-sized companies, as they grow, and everyone's in business to grow and try to dominate their market, they're going to have to adhere to these compliances. And so, that's why we made this so affordable for the mid-sized companies to really start and have that kind of privacy and security in their AI environment.
Yeah. I'm going to address a couple here. I think we have a question here, phase one, just connecting one system. And I think that was in relation to our case study. That was phase one. And phase two is starting to implement and starting to integrate a second system. What we typically find, we want to work with you to get to that 3+ magic number. But typically what we find with customers is that we have to kind of stop the bleeding a little bit and triage the current systems in place. And typically that means the stakeholder who's supporting this effort has like one main system of record that they want to get reporting out of quickly. So that's where we typically start. And we typically will then phase out an approach where you start with that triage component. We do the assessment, we understand what your problems are, and then we move to a phase two where we start to implement more systems and bring in that cross-functional strategic reporting. So, we kind of work with you to design what that looks like. We want to make sure that you're getting quick wins early on so that this isn't some 12-month process before you start to see a dashboard or an insight, or before you start being able to play with the AI. That's a really great question. I think there was another one that's kind of connected to that, and I'll kind of just address it now, which is how long does this take to get going? Like, how many hours do you need to put this together? It's very minimal from your end. So once we connect to your different sources, which typically happens very quickly, it's only a few meetings back and forth between you to really dive into your data sources, understand the business challenges that you're trying to solve and the answers you're trying to get from your data. And then we'll do a lot of the background work. We've built a lot of workflows to optimize and speed that process up so you can kind of get to your answers very quickly. But it's usually very minimal time from the client perspective. And then as well as the AI, once we've connected the data to the AI and we start generating questions that you can answer, that will take very little time, like we said, seconds to get going on that level.
Yeah, Kai, there was a question regarding to privacy and security of the AI environment, and how are you able to ensure it is secure? I think that's a very meaningful question.
Yeah, we just covered that, Cedric.
Okay.
That was
okay. Sorry.
That was the first one that I covered.
Mm-hmm.
There's I want to get to one where it's more basic. There's some pretty advanced questions in here. Nicholas, great question. There's a lot of standardization, it seems like, is missing. We should chat and talk about the architecture and what your MDM looks like, your master data management looks like. I'm gonna there was one where on the Q&A section was here's a basic one, because it seems like we're sort of split between 50% of our attendees having pretty advanced infrastructure around a data warehouse, but maybe haven't architected the data modeling to get it to an automation point. And then we have 50% being attendees who haven't really mastered what the reporting looks like and how to speed things up and automate those. And this one's a good one. So how is Themis different from just using Power BI or Tableau on top of spreadsheets, right? And this is why we wanted to show the use case here of our client who was struggling with that for 6 months. I think what a lot of people think, because Power BI is so great and at marketing, and a lot of Tableau's great as well, and you're seeing the finished product, you're seeing this finished dashboards, and you're not seeing all the work that needs to get done. Then there's technology limitations of the platforms themselves, right? BI tools weren't made to be a data aggregation engine. It was meant to do a lot of great dashboarding and presentation, right? So it's more on the presentation layer. And so when we're talking about getting a lot of data and getting it into a form that's repeatable without a lot of manual page scraping and data aggregation, you really do need a data warehouse. And so Themis is both a data warehouse, and it's managed by us, the data model, the data ingest, the data transformation, the data normalization. But what's different about us versus just going and spinning something up over at AWS or Azure or Google is it comes with a bunch of templates. I know there was a question about templates. We'll get to that in a little bit. But it comes with the templates, comes with a data model. It comes with all of the user permissions that is compliant with regulations. It comes with all of the various different tools that an enterprise data warehouse comes with. So it's scalable. But the biggest difference is it comes with a data service desk. So, down for everything from the data administration all the way up to data science, DevOps architecting, even security, even the CISO, the chief security officer, is baked into our subscription as an all-encompassing solution. And so we are seeing, I think there was a question about, is this geared for CIOs? We're actually talking to a CIO who's tried to maintain their own Snowflake architecture, and it's just too cumbersome. They're a semiconductor company, and they don't have the proper enterprise data operations team, although they have a very sophisticated engineering team that could learn some of this stuff. There's a lot of data process management and organizational change management that comes with it, that you need to bake into it, and they just don't want to staff people up for it. So, but that's a great question. There was also another one about templates. So here's what we're finding with templates for various different industries. I know everyone's looking for a magic template. There isn't one. What we find is every CEO, every CFO, every COO, every CIO, every VP of operations, controller, they're going to want their company data a little different. There isn't a magic template. And so we have basic templates that can be used for various different things, like cash flow management, demand planning, inventory tracking, that kind of thing. Or on the services side, various different service modules and whatnot. We can come up with some basic, but the reason why the data service desk is so important is the tweaking process, right? We have to work with the client to really understand what is that dashboard, what's the dashboard missing, what's the template missing, going through that process. And that's where the data service desk comes in really well. And then there's the process of having the AI learn your data, right? And you'll find that as people start using the reports and the dashboards and data, and they start querying various different insights into the data, you'll find various different dashboards that need to be created, various different views that need to be created. But by then, when the data is normalized and transformed, the AI makes creating a dashboard for your business very simple. as we're talking about, from weeks to seconds, right? So this is the power of AI, but you have to put in the work ahead of time to get the data right, standardized, and normalized between departments and various different decision makers. Kyle, was there anything else you wanted to add on that?
No, I think that's great.
Yeah, so really good questions, man. Yeah. Here's one. Do we have time for one more question?
I think we probably have time for one more, and then we can wrap up. I think there's definitely some questions in here, around how do I already have my data foundation. How do I move, to start unlocking AI and agentic AI? We showed what Themis AI can start to do around, using AI for your private company data to ask questions and generate insights. When we start thinking about AI agents and agentic AI, we talk about how you need that data foundation, but it's probably going to be very somewhat company specific to the tasks and workflows you're trying to get out of it. We do have, some of these kind of, let's say, off the shelf or templated for things you can do around, anomaly detection and flagging issues in your data quality and how to work with that. I think that's probably a case by case basis and would be a great opportunity to kind of sit down and talk to someone with the assessment. So Shrisha, I think, asked a question around this. Would love to kind of sit down with you and run through your specific use case.
Shrisha, it's been a while. Welcome. All right. Yeah, great feedback. Thank you for participating. We got a lot of insights from the poll questions. Hopefully anyone interested, hopefully you guys signed up for the 30-minute free consultation. The first 3 will get the free AI readiness assessment. Looking forward to doing another one in a month.
Yep. Thank you everyone so much. Really appreciate it. And Henry, great presentation for the first one. Looking forward to building on it for the next one.
Kyle, man, this was all you. There's a quote there I really want us to mark it. That was awesome.
Yeah, so I'll drop another quote for everyone who's still here. We've had basically everyone stick around, which is great to see. But I think the key takeaway is this: you don't need to replace your existing systems to unlock real value from your data. You just need to connect them properly, build the right foundation, and then that foundation will allow you to enable AI-driven insights in private company
AI. Great quote. And Nicholas, I saw your question on that. Let's set up some time to chat. Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one.